How about the big problem of buying homes? It's very difficult, especially with the skyrocketing prices of homes, for anyone to buy in cash. You've got to be a millionaire to do that. It's very, very hard to do. The answer to that question, in fact, comes from reality, and some of you might have been exposed to that already. As early as, I think it was 1982, as a part of the Islamic series teaching that Brother Mujib referred to, which is now available in album 5 of the Islamic teaching series. A very simple idea was presented, basic notion or concept for people who want to buy home, and the model actually was designed without any ambition even at the time of having a cooperative or big organization. It is a model that can work even among a few people, and in fact it was implemented in Halifax on 2 homes very successfully. And the idea basically is that you want to buy a home that's worth, let's say, 150,000. You've got only 1/3 of that, just to make it easy. So you need another 100,000. And you find a number of Muslims who want to invest their money in some halal project. You divide the value of your home into shares. So 150,000 means 150 shares, $1,000 each. You get one brother or sister who want to invest 10, 15, 5, so you collect the amount and pay it all in full. Okay? Those contributors, for the time being, are co-owners of that house according to their shares. Then the co-owners agree to rent that house to you. And a fair rental value, and I'm not going in details, we can discuss that in question answer period. And the program, there's 1 hour description in the tapes, how could it work. Rented to you, which means that the value of rent will be divided between you as a co-owner yourself, future owner of the house, and others. But then you're allowed to buy back some of your shares. So as time goes on, your shares will go up, your equity. So instead of having 50 shares, you'll have 55, 60, and so on, which means also that your share of the rent would be higher, their share would be lower, until you fully pay for the house. At that time, when the idea was presented, nobody even could think that your brothers in Toronto, mashallah, have taken the basic concept and developed it in a full-fledged Islamic housing cooperative that now has more than 250 homes under it. I've gone through it. More than 250 homes. And it's not really that big cooperative as such, but it is sizable in one sense. But that shows the success in a span of maybe 10 to 15 years. The dividend, to my recollection, never went below something like 7%. It was 7.2 like last year, 8%. The maximum 1 year, it went to 10%. But of course, now with overhead, you could expect between 7 to 8%. That's not determined in advance. This is shares in the rental value. So there's no connection with interest here. So this is another thing. You can establish a cooperative housing here. I know that the MSI, Muslim Saving and Investment, tried that, but perhaps they got into some other business that put them in some problems. But I think there's a potential for that. It could be even independent. It could be even among a few people who can come together to help each other with this. Like in Egypt, they used to have the system, they called it Gam'iyya. They say it by the ga, like Jamal, you know, those Egyptians speak like that. Gam'iyya, you know, in Egypt, we used to have that system that everybody pays some saving every month and then give the entire amount to one person who might need to buy something. So it comes in turns depending on the need. So you can have Gam'iyya too, if you want to. All right. I must bring to your attention one thing that some people also might have misconstrued of a fatwa that was issued by the Fatwa Commission in Kuwait in response to a question that was directed by Sheikh Muhammad al-Hanuti. I read the fatwa, I read the text of the question and the fatwa. And the question that Sheikh Hanuti asked, he said, in this country, people are reluctant to rent to people with large families or something to that effect. And he said a person might have a large number of kids and cannot find a place, or could be thrown out in the street and you can't live in the street. On the basis of that, the fatwa said that, as you know, in Sharia there are three categories. There is darurat, there is hajiyat, and there is tahsiniyat or tahsinat. That means in the degree of need of people, there are darura, which is mean absolute necessity, like life-saving things. That's why the Quran, for example, allowed eating pork if a person is going to die unless he eats. That's the only food available. Absolute necessity. Or using of some form of anesthesia for operations, whatever. That's for saving a person's life, or saving the person from injury or extended disease. But this is the highest. And then there is hajiyat, things that are needed highly by people. It is not a life-saving situation, but things without which people will find that their life are very, very constrained. Like a person, for example, in Florida having to live in a tent. Well, you can do it in Florida, but come to Nova Scotia, you will freeze to death. It becomes darura. So, in other words, people also need certain things that might not be absolutely needed, but absence of which make their life very constrained. And the Quran says, مَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيَجْعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah doesn't want to put you, because of the practice of your faith, in undue, harsh difficulty. But then there is tahsinat, having a better car, enjoying myself and all of this. That's are additional things that to take only a third. So basically, I give that introduction to give the rationale of the fatwa, that they say, in that case, it becomes hajiyat. If a person's life becomes very difficult and unable to find an appropriate place to accommodate his children and cannot live in the street, in that case, the concession was given. I'm not getting now into the recent fatwa given by Dr. Yusuf al-Qaradawi. I did have some discussion with him after that, just to seek his advice. But I leave that maybe to the later part of the discussion. Let me move to the third major issue, because of time, about insurance.